Welcome, everybody, to Dick Storks and Destinies. I'm your host, Chapel, and with me today are Ken, the Kid, and Crash. And we're talking about mythology.
And today's episode is brought to you and sponsored by Equal Opportunity Insurance, where your privacy is our policy.
No, it's not. Don't listen to him.
Oh, okay. That was literally all I had to say.
That's it? That was it? That's all you had?
Yep. I'll have more next time.
Okay.
I think
So,
he was just trying to push Ken's button.
say that again, Crash?
I said, I think he was just trying to get under Ken's skin with the private insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've
Didn't
been
even-
noticing that it's a theme that it gets mentioned quite frequently throughout our episodes.
Look, it's part of the mythology of Dick Storks and Destinies. It's part of the lore. You have to have been there for it to understand it.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so today's episode is mythology.
Yeah.
Are we going with just one in particular, or are we just gonna cram them all in this episode?
I figure we probably go over some of our favorite mythologies and just kind of talk about what we found interesting about them.
Okay, works for me.
Um, does anybody want to start or
No, I'm merging at the moment.
yeah, no, that's not good. Okay.
We don't want Crash to crash, so
Yeah.
for the time being, I guess. No, I mean,
whatever.
when it comes to mythology, I've always looked. Well, I've always had an interest in mythology. It's just I looked at different cultures and different time periods and everything else, and I found it quite interesting that, as a Christian kid growing up, we're told that there's only one God, any others are just false idols, yada, 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 bullshit. But there are countless cultures out there, still out there to this day, that worship multiple gods. Some of the earliest recorded history that we know about and we get to that we are forced to study in schools and shit like that. The Greeks,
Okay. Well, I mean,
the Greek pantheon was multiple gods.
Well, to me that makes sense because the not only did Greek mythology, but Greek history and even the Greek language had a large influence on our culture as a whole.
Right. And then you go into the Romans, and everyone's like, well, the Romans are different. No, the Romans just took the Greek mythology and renamed it. Because their god of the sea is known as Neptune instead of Poseidon.
Let me look into that because I hear that people get the two confused a lot.
It's literally the same. Zeus was called Jupiter. Hermes went from being Hermes to Mercury, the god of
So they
god of
worship the
messages.
planet.
Well, they named most of the gods after, or most of our celestial bodies were named after Roman gods. And the Romans adopted the Greek mythology. And then you move from them to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians had a whole fucking set all on their own. Travel a
Well,
little
that
bit
was
further.
and the
The
reason. Hang on, because that's an interesting point. Because the reason we know so much about Roman mythology, there's two sources we know about for Roman mythology. Uh, the first of those being Napoleon. Napoleon was really
Yeah.
big on was big on Egyptian mythology and history. He was more of a history buff. In fact, the whole reason we even have like archaeology and stuff like that the way it is now is because of Napoleon.
Yeah.
And second, because Cleopatra and Julius Caesar had a thing.
Right. And that was the Roman times, still in the same land that the Greeks were in.
Well, I mean, no,
Because at one
because
point in time, the Roman
Julius
at
Caesar
one
was the Caesar of Rome.
right, and at one point in time, the Roman Empire was larger than what today's China is.
I mean, yeah.
Italy, Greece was not like a large landmass for them to overcome.
No, no, because Greece is right there next to Italy.
So that's the reason why they adopted Greek mythology.
Well,
And now since the Roman Empire took over Greece, they're not going to call those gods by the same name because they're no longer Greek. They are Roman Empire.
well, okay. Um, Let me check on something here.
I thought we were doing historical accuracy next week.
We are doing
No,
historical accuracy next week. We're just talking about. What I was talking about was
historical
historical
accuracy
accuracy.
falls in this.
Well, no, what I was talking about was historical accuracy in media, is what I said.
Yeah.
I thought we were just going to talk about who our favorite mythology character was.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about your favorite mythology character, I'm all ears.
I liked Anubis.
Anubis,
Yeah. I thought he was
Lo- that's the thing is by two accounts, Anubis is either the lord of the underworld or Anubis is the guide to the underworld.
I only know him as the god of the dead, that's it. Known as
I think I fought him in Assassin's Creed.
to do what?
No, see, Anubis was one of my favorite Egyptian gods. And that's the thing that with historical accuracy being a part of this, because historically, no one was accurate on the role of Anubis and what he did and who he was. Because in earlier years of my schooling, they taught Egyptian mythology and they talked about Anubis being the lord of the underworld or the god of the dead, which is the same role as Hades from Greek mythology. And then
Yeah, that was
in
the
later
day he had to
years,
carve it on stone.
and in later years, they transitioned him from being the Lord of the Dead and Underworld to the guide of the dead, leading them to their final resting place.
I mean, technically, wouldn't he do both? I mean, isn't that kind of his job?
Yeah, but they removed one job from him.
He was overworked, underpaid.
But yes, just like with you, Ken, Anubis is one of my favorite gods, especially in Egyptian mythology.
I think everybody liked Anubis just because he had that big black Doberman head, and you were
He
just
was a
like,
puppy.
that is a badass looking dude.
That was a puppy.
I actually liked him for how he was depicted in Egyptian mythology. Because out of all the Egyptian gods, he's not the god that wanted to fuck you over the most. He just wanted you to go move on.
There was
Like,
also a crocodile god.
hey,
Yeah. Yeah, there was.
either go here or go here. The choice is yours. Leave me the fuck alone. Get out of here.
So what about you, Crash?
I just did enough to get by in history class. So
I didn't ask nothing about history class. I asked what your favorite.
no, I'm saying during the mythology stuff, that's what I did
Mm.
enough to get
He
by.
slept or asked someone for answers.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he doesn't know anything about mythology. He's played God of War. I know he has. He's played several God of War games. He's played Assassin's
And
Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have any favorite influence of mythology from that?
I did like the Ragnarok one. The Norse
Okay,
gods.
Mm-hmm.
that would be the Norse mythology and the Viking gods.
Because on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, my dude was decked out in Thor gear.
Lightning.
Yeah. And Odin's spear.
Lightning.
So
Okay,
There's-
so that's basically all three mythologies that I really know a lot about.
okay, all right. Ken, you got something you want to talk about?
It wasn't a god, but I liked those. What were they called? The Immortals. Can't remember which era they were from. They were either Greece or Roman. One of the two. It was these weird creatures that the gods banished. They were people, but they're like the gods' soldiers or something.
Oh, do you
But
mean
they're
the
out trapped
Persians?
inside of
I started to
possibly.
say the Persian immortal soldiers.
Yeah, quite possibly. They were trapped in some giant box or chamber, and they were stuck in there until someone opened the gate, and then they would wreak havoc on all of their enemies. But the trick was is that them being immortal, they were also virtually unstoppable. So the gods didn't like to use them too much. They were cool. I thought they were cool. I thought the concept was cool. It was whatever during the time period that the Iron Bull was a thing.
I think the Iron Bull itself is a myth. I don't think they ever found anything to, or I believe you're thinking about the brass bull, the one where they supposedly put someone inside of it and cooked them alive.
Yeah.
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 That
Whichever time period that was in.
The brazen bull.
Yeah, that thing was fucked up.
that was, I believe, during the Bronze Age.
So.
Well, no, it was supposedly designed in ancient Greece, but we've got no proof of that actually being a thing.
Wasn't the ancient Greece the Bronze
Really?
Age?
How did we not have proof of that?
No, I don't think anything was ever found during archaeological digs and shit like that that supported that. I mean, it was still a theory.
I thought it was only used by one person,
No.
and then it was never.
I
mean, the
believe that
thing is,
was no. I mean, it was really only used during one person or whatever, but it was more of a
No, it
corporal
was
punishment.
it was yeah, it was a capital punishment. The idea was is that the bull was hollow and made of brass, and they would put a
yeah,
prisoner
it
for
was the case.
execution inside of it, and then light a
And light a
fire.
fire underneath.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then the bull supposedly had pipes inside that made their screams sound like the bull was,
I
like
thought
an
it wasn't
Bellowing.
necessarily pipes. I thought it was just that they had one like actual spout for the oxygen to keep going through,
no,
and
no.
then when the person screamed because it was made of brass and it was so heavy, it sounded reverberated, so it sounded like a bull.
Yeah, no. It supposedly had a system of pipes. Um,
That seems a little too cramped. I thought the whole point was to give you a big open space that you can't leave, and no matter how you sit or where you try to maneuver, you're still burning alive.
that's another reason why people don't believe it existed, was because that would have been a huge fucking bull with to include the system of pipes inside of it.
I didn't know anything about no pipes. I thought it was just like a big open spot where the mouth was,
Yeah.
just enough so you could actually breathe oxygen because they didn't want to kill you from oxygen deprivation. They wanted to kill you from being murdered.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have. They were gonna put a hole in it anyway to make sure the oxygen would continue to go. But um, not only that, but like early persecution of Christians by the Romans claims to that this device was used in that kind of persecution. That and crucifixion.
Yeah, anyone see the movie Beowulf? That had a bunch of cool stuff in it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
I've seen the movie Beowulf.
What was it? The Grendel? Grundle?
Mm-hmm.
And then dude fucked a dragon.
I don't know if that's how that went down.
I thought that was Shrek.
That's at the end of
Donkey from
Shrek.
Shrek.
I mean, he's not wrong.
No, Beowulf. I don't know how accurate the movie was. Beowulf is like an epic poem, kind of like shit.
Yeah, I think that's what it was supposed to be, like a battle poem of somebody.
That's what it was. It was about his life and his journey, and the shit that he's encountered and the creatures he's encountered.
So the thing about Beowulf is that's German mythology, because it came from the Gothic German era.
I thought it was Norse.
No, it's possibly could have been Norse because the Goths were up there close to the Vikings, so it's in that kind of overlapping area.
Yeah, I thought it was Norse because Beowulf came from the sea. That was kind of the trick. Like that was his whole poem. A man who came from the sea had heralded a call from a dude who had a Viking mead hall. A king, a Viking king, and then he was to slay the monster,
No,
and he ended up becoming the king.
it's definitely a
Yes, he is a
Germanic.
Scandinavian hero. Scandinavian means that he's Viking.
Ha! Fuck you, Chapel.
Okay.
Like, goddamn!
but
You're an asshole.
Chapel is correct because Beowulf is an Old English epic poem in the tradition of Germanic heroic legend.
I still win. I know what I said.
So that would be why he was mentioning it being Germanic.
Yeah.
He's Germic.
But yes, it's about a Scandinavian hero who's named Beowulf. The just give a little fucking synopsis of it here real quick. He gains fame as a young man by vanquishing the monster Grendel and Grendel's mother. Later, as an aging king, he kills a dragon but dies soon after.
In the movie, it said that dragon was the son. He fucked the dragon.
The movie.
Well, in
yeah.
the movie, he didn't fuck a dragon. He actually fucked Grendel's mother,
Which gave birth to a dragon.
which gave birth to Grendel and the dragon. So he killed both of his children from her.
No. In the movie, Grendel was the other king's child.
Still,
Look, all
he
I'm
fucked
saying
a
is
monster and ended up with a monster child.
we agreed that historical accuracy was next week, and that movie is not historically accurate.
No, it isn't.
I'm just talking about a story.
But yes, that would tie Beowulf into actually Norse mythology and the Viking lore. Which oddly enough, my favorite god from that is not Thor, nor is it Loki.
Not only that, but they're finding out that that not all of Beowulf is mythology. There's like
No, it's
stuff in
not.
there's stuff in Beowulf because Beowulf was written what in
In like the early 700s.
no, it was written between 975 to 1025 AD. But the idea is
Oh, yeah.
is that the story takes place in like the early 500s, and they're finding that that stuff that was described in the poem actually exists. Like they found the place that Beowulf was like supposedly living.
Mm-hmm. Which has always been puzzling to me. Like the age of the Norse mythology, the age of Egyptian mythology, the age of Greek mythology. How the fuck did they come up with multiple gods?
So the idea is you had a god for every event in life. You had a god for the rising of the sun. You had a god for the falling of the sun. You had a god for life. You had a god for death. You had a god for procreation. You had a god for love. That kind of stuff is like the events in your life is where the idea of gods came from. Like something external that was so far removed from what you were or in what you are influences you in such a way that you really can't control yourself. That was the idea of it.
Yeah, and then you go fast forward
I
to
mean,
Christianity.
honestly, makes sense for, like, especially of those times. I mean, you also gotta remember science and scientific history and stuff like that were considered things of pure evil. Like, it was messing with a phenomenon that you didn't understand, so why would you try to mess with something that, and due to happenstance every now and again, it would be proven that they would try to attempt to learn about something and then all of a sudden, like, just ironically happens as a natural disaster. So they took that as a holy shit, we pissed off a god.
Yeah.
So they backed off. And then ironically again, the storm was over. It just ends up being, which I mean, not to disprove, because I mean, none of us were alive back then.
I don't
Chapel, you're old, but
I
not
don't
that
I
old.
don't I don't like that argument. We have there's a reason we know what history is. There's things called historians. They have always existed. They've always wrote
We're
stuff
not
down.
talking about historians. We're talking about gods. And you're
No, no.
telling me that your god came down and started crashing around because they wanted science?
No. No, what I'm saying is that there are people who are like, well, you weren't there, so you don't fucking know. So I can say what that goes back to the historical accuracy. Sorry. Uh, Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. I'm just giving some random, like, theorization of being alive in 500.
Yeah, like the kid was.
Well, I mean, you would be like
Maybe.
over 2,000.
And if I was over 2,000 years old, I'd be one grouchy and crabby motherfucker.
You're barely half our age, and you're still a grouchy, crabby motherfucker.
Exactly, because I bet I'd be sitting there looking at everyone going, what the fuck? Everything was pretty and you ruined it. The video games are good.
Look, video
Well, see,
games are
that's the
coming
thing
back.
is,
Go
okay,
ahead.
yes, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, Norse mythology, even Roman, to a degree. They all had multiple gods, and yeah, they attested that certain things were caused by certain gods and everything else. Then you fast forward to Christianity, and Christianity eliminated every god but one. Like, one god controls it all.
I feel like there's some anger there.
No, there's
I
not really
still
any
hold
anger
my
there. It's
theory.
just it doesn't really make that much sense to me. Because and I'm just gonna take from the three that I like, because I fuck Roman mythology. Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
There is a all powerful God that they all bow down to.
Zeus.
What he says is law. Egyptian mythology, there is one all powerful God that they all bow down to, that what he says is law. In Norse mythology, there is one powerful God that what he says is law, and they all bow down to.
Odin.
And as Ken mentioned, you've got Zeus, Osiris,
No, that
and
was
Odin.
Couldn't remember what the other one was. I was gonna say.
Now,
like,
where Greek mythology gets me fucked up and twisted, and this is where the hatred comes in, and this is something that goes into historical accuracy slightly. So, bite my ass.
ooh, he gave you
Zeus
an invitation.
is the one that they all bow down to. In mythology, and where it leans into the historical accuracy, Kronos is the titan of time and everything else,
Isn't
and
he also
is
the
the
son?
father.
No, the
He
father
is
of Zeus.
he's the father of all of the Greek gods, and he swallows them all except for Zeus. And this is where it goes into God of War games, because you get to see this depicted in God of War 2. I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Dun, dun,
Zeus
dun,
gets
dun.
swallowed and cuts himself free and then rescues all of his brothers and sisters. Therein is why they bow down to what he has to say, because he's the one that rescued them all.
Mm-hmm.
Later in mythology, they say that Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are the top three gods, and even though Zeus is still a tier above Poseidon and Hades, that all the other gods that fall beneath them are the sons and daughters of Zeus. How?
Well, let me pull out the Alabama textbook of inbreeding. As stated in Article Subsection 2 of banging your father's cousin's brother's dad, I ain't got no fucking idea. But there you go. Now you know.
That has
I'm
always
gonna
been
have
my
to.
argument.
I'm gonna have to go look this up
But
because it wasn't just because here's the thing. So because of the way things were done back then, you had the men in charge and the women taking care of the house, and so
what?
Zeus.
Wait,
Hang on, just shut up and listen. Zeus, I don't care. Zeus and his two brothers, Poseidon and Hades, were
Yep.
were cut out of the belly. I believe there were at least two, possibly three sisters that were also there. They just were not on the same tier because they were not men. But that's where all the banging came from.
Still,
Sure, because Hera, the mother of Zeus, and Aphrodite doesn't have any kind of big tier at all.
Hera's not the mother of Zeus. Hera's the mother of Hercules. Or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
no, not Hercules. That's wrong too. Hang on, I'm looking it up.
He's looking it up.
Hera is Zeus's wife.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mother of Kratos.
No, she's not the mother of Kratos either. All of the demigods, even in video game history, all the demigods that Zeus produced into the world, he came down from his omnipotent side to human size, fucked a human woman, and oh, you're pregnant, bye, and leaves.
What a good dad.
The ultimate deadbeat dad pops a fucking kid and a woman and says, not mine. See
Oh,
ya.
okay. I got it. so here's funny enough, here's what happened. He started
Mhm.
Zeus started forming gods out of his own body. Like Athena, I'm not sure which one she
She's the
was in
goddess
the
of
line.
wisdom.
Well, no, I know which god she is. I'm not sure which line she's in. Like I don't know if she was like the firstborn. I just know that she was fully formed out of the forehead of Zeus. Like he pulled her out of his forehead, full on Full Metal Brotherhood style. And
Okay, so all the other gods that call him father instead of brother, he
they
is father, and they're
yeah,
homunculi that he created.
they are either that or they are the children of unions of those.
Big brother Edward.
Big brother Ed. For those who don't get that reference, you should go watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, I get that reference quite well, and fuck you
Edit that.
both.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna do that.
It's really good.
Okay, still, to me, it never really made sense in that one either. Now, as far as Odin goes and him being the all-powerful one, I understand the hierarchy in that branch because he is the father of everyone but one god.
Yeah, I kind of have my own theory on that, but we're not going to go into that today. We don't have time.
What do you mean?
It's we'll go over that in a different episode.
And then you can shift back to the Egyptian mythology and how everything works there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I still don't get why Anubis's role changed so significantly over the years when he was literally supposed to be brother to Osiris and supposed to be controlling the Egyptians' world of hell.
Yeah.
Or death.
I mean, I don't know. Like, could just be that things got skewed over time. I mean, in all actuality, it's still somewhat even amazing to realize that we even still talk about stuff like this at all to this day.
Well,
It's being talked about less and less as time goes on.
I think that's a
Yeah.
shame too, because the mythology of those different cultures has had a huge impact on our own culture. That
Right.
we got philosophy, and the whole idea of philosophy came from the Greeks and the Romans. The Greeks started it, but then the Romans picked it up.
Right. The Romans are the ones that contributed significantly into science and mathematics. Well, sort of on math. That would also be taking away from the Chinese as well.
Yeah. But then you got to think the Chinese and the Japanese, in fact, most of the Asian cultures, they developed their own empires and have their own mythologies and religions,
I was wondering if anyone was going to bring that up.
and they did it completely separate of the influence
Oh yeah,
of the
they
Europeans.
were completely separate during those times of slave trade and who's gonna conquer who and all that shit. Japan and China had their own fucking cultures, their own fucking empires, their own god panthology and everything else,
Yeah.
completely uninfluenced by what the fuck was going on west of them.
Yeah. I mean, the equivalent to Odin and Zeus in Japan is Raiden. Excuse me.
Raiden, they got Amaterasu, um, and then you got like all the commies. They would say that if you were blessed by a kami, that your life would be altered permanently. What?
I'm sure you're probably talking about one thing and I'm thinking about a different thing.
Something tells me we are. Cause
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we are because you're being serious and I thought you were joking. But the thing is,
No.
what's really funny is what you're talking about and what I'm thinking of line up exactly the same, the way you phrased it.
Well, what are you
What,
thinking of,
Amaterasu?
Chapel?
No, the commies.
God damn it, Chapel.
Are you thinking that Japan had a bunch of green alien men on a lookout?
Oh God, no, no. How did you not get that?
Not communism. Commie with a K.
Yeah,
Kami.
yeah, yeah.
The spirits.
That
The
see after I realized you were being serious, I was pretty sure that's what you were talking about. But if you think about the way you said it, it
I'm
does
done with
line
you.
up
Done
with
with you.
commies.
I'm done with you.
Well, I mean, you also have the Onis as well, so
Yeah,
Yeah, those are another form of a commie. Yeah,
yeah.
commie is just like the big name
For the
for
many
all of them.
spirits that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, oh, you've either been cursed by a kami or you've been blessed by a kami.
yeah.
There's two. They're both considered demons of their own nature, but how they're interpreted mean two different things.
Which, funny enough, kind of weird segue here, but so in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic, the creators Eastman and Laird were not aware that kappas were a thing when they made that.
Oh no shit.
No shit.
That's actually funny, yeah, because a kappa is part of Japanese mythology.
Yeah. No, what they did was they were like they were big fans of Bruce Lee in like the early 80s, and they were like, what's the most ridiculous thing we can what's the most ridiculous animal we can think up to like be doing Bruce Lee stuff, and they're like turtles. And that's
Okay.
how that came about.
Well, now to be fair, a kappa is not actually. Uh,
It
it's
does look like a turtle.
turtle-like. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's turtle-like, but it's also fish-like. Like kappas are kind of.
okay.
There's a whole big lore spool about them.
Yeah.
However, I can tell you they did figure out, which this is what I found really cool, and I'm sorry, now I'm actually gonna be invested in nerding out because I've been studying Japanese traditionalism, and just an FYI for most folks, in the tattoo world, Japanese traditionalism, when you do that, you actually do need to do a lot of research and study up on Japanese lore and mythology because each one is a story based on your life. Anywho, a kappa, it's interesting because they found ways to. So every kami has like a strength and a weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they always in all the lores taught a person how to kill that particular kami. A kappa, since we were talking about it, the only way to fully kill a kappa and make the kami go back to its realm is by bowing to it. Because every kami follows the traditional rule of respect. If you bow to your spirit, the spirit must bow back to you. And because a kappa has water where its head is, if you spill that water, they die. And that was the way you would get rid of a kappa if you had a mischievous kappa in your life.
Mm. That is actually pretty interesting. I like that.
Mhm. So like even though like so you got like all these different mythologies and like the gods of Greek, Rome, even like Valhallan times, Scandinavians, Norse, whatever's. There's a pattern of like these gods are the big bad and all powerfuls, right? Like you worshipped them.
Right.
They didn't give a shit about you in technicality. Now granted they did actually, they needed the people to pray at their altars and stuff like that. So they would give wisdom and whatnot. But I feel like there wasn't the same amount of like in the mythology lore there wasn't the same amount of respect level as when you walk into like a Japanese or an Asian culture's mythology. Like the basis around how they did things was still the basis of how it was done in the other realm of, like, the gods and the kammis and stuff like that. Like, they were both procced on each other. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, I thought that stuff was always kind of cool. You know, honestly, I haven't ran into too many in any of my research. I haven't ran into too many, like, gods, per se. I really am starting to think that it's mostly just, like, spirits of different levels. That's what they considered to be, like, godlike. Like, Amaterasu was supposed to be virtually the god of the sun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then there was Inaru, which was the nine-tailed fox, or the spirit, or god of, like, wisdom or something.
I think the nine-tailed fox is the trickster.
See, I don't actually believe that particular. Not Inaru. Maybe a kitsune, which is a lesser kami spirit of
Yeah.
Inaru. But Inaru has its own shrine, like, dedicated to praying for fortune through Inaru. I mean, why would you pray to a trickster for good fortune?
Well, I mean, in Norse mythology, the trickster fucked a wolf, a horse, and I don't know.
I don't know if that's good fortune.
He fucked a horse, and now we have centaurs.
Actually,
No,
the
I know that's not how
six-legged-
that. I know that's not how that works.
Okay,
or worked in the mythology, and I also know that centaurs are they Roman or Greek?
Greek.
Are they Roman? Are they Greek?
Yes,
Which one was the satyr then?
Greek.
They were both Greek.
Yep. They were adopted by Roman mythology. The mythological animals never changed in Roman times.
Alright. Yeah, I got you.
But however, when I mentioned that, I forgot to mention the world serpent as well. Because the three children of Loki, you've got the wolf.
You're talking about
That-
Ouroboros, aren't you?
You've got the wolf that bit off his brother's hand. You've got the six-legged horse that Odin rides.
That's fucked up.
And yes, the Ouroboros. And his daughter controls Hell.
Yeah, Hela.
And her name is Hell.
Oh.
I don't think. I think the Ouroboros is Greek. I think there is the world-eating serpent, but I think it's called something else. Funny
Wait,
enough, but before we
game?
say that again.
I said, Crash, what was it called? You played the video game.
I don't know.
What?
It was actually the Jorgamander. That's its name.
Yeah, because Yggdrasil
I did.
is the world tree.
That's right. They made an anime off the name of that. Jormungand.
So, but
Not that
before
anything.
before we get too far away from it, I thought it was interesting. There's a version of the nine-tailed fox in every Asian mythology, in each of the different cultures.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know that. I thought that was strictly like a Japanese
No.
thing.
No, it goes into Chinese, Vietnam, and Korean, everything in Asian culture.
Yeah, the fox is kind of like that, the big bad. Like it's a really high tier.
No, just
And yet,
okay. I could understand if there was simply a fox or a version of a fox. The fact that each version has specifically a not excuse me. Each version has specifically a nine-tailed version of the fox.
Yeah,
It to
yes,
me is
there.
interesting.
we're agreeing with you. Yeah, it's that's supposed to be like one of the highest, one of the higher up tiers of like of mythological thing, of something that exists or existed.
And yes, just like Ken mentioned, the there's two different pronunciations of one of them.
Oh.
It's either the kitsune or the kitsune.
Yeah,
I think that might depend on where you're at in
possibly.
locations because
Um,
because
I
I believe Chinese
I did a little
language.
bit of research on kitsunes.
Yeah.
I want to. I could be wrong. I'd have to do my research again because I need to get back into it. But I want to say, in even the Japanese, I think kitsune and kitsune are similar, if not like brother sister type thing. Not like that. God damn it. Bad. Bad.
So
Bad kid.
here's the funny part. Kitsune or kitsune is strictly Japanese. In
Yes.
China, it's called the hujin, and in Korea, it's called the kumiho. I don't know what it's called in Vietnam though. I may have to look into that.
You talked about Onis. That was an interesting read too.
Hmm.
Um, with the whole Oni thing, cause so like trying to figure out like the best way to explain an Oni. A lot of people, okay, so the biggest known Oni is usually the red mask, right? The red or the blue mask,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's got a smile.
Yep.
It's usually got some sort of smile on its face. So that's actually only one variation of an Oni. Um,
Okay. My turn to make Ken hate me even further.
I already do every day.
He wraps it in his
My
stomach.
my 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 best knowledge, other than the minor research that I've done, comes from the Jackie Chan adventures on the Oni.
You know what? I haven't even seen Jackie Chan Adventures, so I couldn't tell you. I can't hate you
Oh,
enough.
damn.
Thankfully, my ignorance is bliss. Fuck yourself. Um,
That'll be another thing we talk about when we come up with when we talk about historical accuracy in media.
yeah. Um, no, so like the there was one in specific I can remember. If I can bother to remember what her name was. The lady in something, but she was an Oni, and it was actually interesting how she was depicted. Um, it depended on how you looked at her. When she looked down, you saw a smile. When she looked up, she had the frown face. And then if she was looking straight, her face was distorted.
Okay.
Uh, some people will another version of the Oni, which is the most popular, which would be the red mask, usually, is the samurai variant.
Hmm.
That's a demon that died, um, and was not put to rest on in battle.
Hmm.
So like all of these like yokai and the kamis, most of the time that it was put into play, it's usually someone or something that ended up passing away and was not given a proper burial or a proper moving on.
Okay.
And so it returned through whatever its main feeling was that it felt last.
Ah.
The reason the Onis were always are so heavily depicted as samurais and like brutal monsters is because usually 9 out of 10 when, you know, you die in battle, you're not thinking good thoughts.
Right.
You're usually thinking about vanquishing your enemy that struck you down. So you will return in that form of the ability to do so, but you no longer have control of who you're doing it to.
Hmm. Okay. So, is there anything else anyone wants to cover before we hop off of here?
No, not really.
No, I'm good.
Crash?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm about to go crash.
Understandable. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to Dick Storks and Destinies. Please like, subscribe, whatever it is you do on the platform that you listen to us on. Leave us. Go ahead.
And remember, today's episode was brought to you and
No, it
sponsored by
wasn't.
Equal Opportunity Insurance.
Your privacy is our policy.
Not. No, it's not. Just okay. Bye. God, click